Hey, Darin Mangum here, securities attorney with the law firm of Mangum and Associates. I'm super excited today. I've got as my guest Tyler and Brayden of Jalada, kind of like gelato ice cream, but Jalada. Which what does that mean in Korean? Well, you say it means something in Korean, right? Is that right?
Yeah, it means to grow. If there's any Korean people listening, you're not going to understand the pronunciation, but yeah, it means to grow.
Okay, so
And so,
all of my clients in Korea, kamsahamnida for watching and anyway, but yeah, it means to grow. And so I wanted to bring them on because, as you know, as a securities law firm, obviously we're specialized in securities law, and but most of our clients are growing entrepreneurs, and they sometimes need help with making. I mean, obviously, we're the most important thing to think about is when you're structuring the offering, we need to look at the foundation of the business itself. Again, whether it's a partnership or whether it's an LLC or a corporation, the founders, if there's one founder, great. If there's multiple founders, the key thing to look to have a solid foundation is make sure not only you covered on the legal side, but also covered on the tax side. And that's what Gelada is all about. And we wanted to introduce them to our clients and our listeners and our subscribers on YouTube, just so they know that, hey, there is a resource when you get thinking about the tax side of things. We're not tax lawyers, but I mean, we're securities lawyers, but we want to introduce you to some tax specialist. So I wanted to introduce you guys to Tyler and Brayden and Gelada. And maybe you guys could take a minute and talk about what Gelada is all about and maybe share some things.
sure, yeah. So Jalada, we're basically we're a CPA firm. We primarily focus on the kind of wealth management of money. So in that sense, we don't work like a financial advisor. That's not kind of our space. But what we're worried about is particularly business owners that when they are growing and scaling their business, that they have the wealth flow through to them and that they're not paying Uncle Sam a lot of money, or as kind of making sure that they're preparing for their futures or for future endeavors, right? Whether you're trying to grow a business to sell it, or if you're just trying to grow that business to make it the rest of your life, we want to help support you in those goals. And so that's kind of what we do for people, is we focus on the individual element, the people element of your business, and how to grow your business to benefit you the best.
Got it. Got it. Yeah. So that's yeah, we get calls all the time from clients who are entrepreneurs, and they know that we got the securities side covered, but then when it comes to tax and looking at that ownership structure and all of that, you guys have a great resource for that. What are maybe some of the maybe top three things that entrepreneurs should be looking at when they're considering their tax structure or the structure of their business when they're starting out?
Yeah, that's a great question. The first thing that comes to mind, well, of course, you've probably heard there's, C corps, S corps, partnerships, LLCs. It kind of just gets to be a mess when you're first jumping into it. You're like, hey, which one do I want to do? Because that can really impact, really affect you and your business, depending on what your end goal is and how you want to structure that. We'll get into taxes and things a little bit later, but it affects every aspect of that. It's very important. And we've seen, people struggle when they get, like have a business grows really fast, or maybe like a partner leaves. There's a lot of different things that have caused the business to, fall apart, even if it was a good product or a good idea. But
Yeah, in particular, we've seen people who are growing their business, taking it to a level where they're selling their company to, somebody large. And the fact that they structured their business, or they didn't execute their business structure very well, ended up almost derailing the deals. And some of these deals were, multi-million-dollar deals for companies that they've been growing, particularly surrounding around S corps, and some of the, those tend to be the most tax advantage structure most of the time, as a general rule, for small and growing companies. But there's a lot of details that oftentimes people miss that can actually put you at risk of losing that status and having to pay back taxes to the IRS for those years. And sometimes those mistakes can really throw off attempts to get money or to fund your company, because suddenly your company's worth a lot less when you have $100,000 tax liability hanging over your head.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah, and there's the next thing I can think of. You guys probably all heard of, cash is king, right? You want to be keeping track of your finances early, and that's something that can kind of catch people off guard. You get a product or a service or an idea that takes off, and you're just like, oh, this is awesome, I'm killing it. We've seen businesses making a lot of money, but not being successful. They're not tracking that money, they're not managing that cash, and they start to go under. Like, wait, I'm doing all these sales, I'm doing a great job, where's all my money? What's happening with that?
Yeah.
That includes the cash for the business, as well as how that cash is flowing into owners. A lot of times in startups, you'll get a lot of very entrepreneurial people who might anticipate going 6 months without pay, but they don't plan for a year without pay or 18 months without pay. And so as part of that cash flow it's always very important to consider how much can the owner live with? How much is the owner willing to cut back on their pay in order to grow their business? It's all around this cash, keeping track of finances early so you know what you can pay yourself or your company and how to reinvest that money.
Right. So it's good to start early and take a look at that. Right.
Absolutely.
Exactly. You asked for three different things. The last thing that I would say, and we've kind of hinted on it, but taxes, like that's just another kind of surprise that can hit people or make a big difference on your business. You may be tracking your cash flow and you're like, okay, we've done a good job tracking that. Tax season comes around, all of a sudden your cash is wiped out. You're like, wait a minute, what happened with that? Why did they take all my money? There's different things with taxes. What could I have done to reduce that? And sometimes you're going to pay more earlier just to save later. There's different strategies and things that you can do that actually help you a lot if you play it right and set it up.
Absolutely. And especially when it comes to tax season and kind of planning around it, a common thing that I see that I honestly think is a mistake for some entrepreneurs is they come at us saying, hey, I don't want to pay any taxes this year. And so they'll kind of come at us and they'll come say, hey, here's some aggressive strategies. I've heard about them on Instagram or I've heard about them online. Let's implement these this year. Well, the thing about taxes is that there are times when we say tax planning, we don't mean reducing taxes to zero. We mean using the tax code to bring the most advantageous long-term treatment of taxes for you, right? So in some years, that might be paying no taxes by recording expenses certain years, depreciation, some of these other methods that I'm sure you've heard all about using some of these other tax plans. But there are also times when you might want to pay a little bit more this year, because you can reduce your liability in future years by paying more this year. And that can really help you, especially in the early stage of your business. You pay taxes on things as they come in the early stages. And that way, when your business blows up, you're not paying as much taxes on some of that stuff after it blows up, which is obviously going to hurt a lot more when you have more money. So, it's always about planning that tax flow, kind of like you plan cash flow. You want to plan that tax flow. How do you want to be taxed? You want to be taxed lower this year and then higher next year? Or do you want to be taxed higher this year and lower next year, right? So there's a lot around the planning too that we'd really recommend people do.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's something you definitely need to be aware of and not just push off and like, oh, I don't want to worry about the taxes till later. I mean, that strategic planning. And that's really what you guys, Jalada, are all about. And also you have a cool feature, I think I played around with it a little bit as far as like, being able to ask like really kind of simple questions, right? You guys are, happy to kind of field like questions from time to time. Is that right? Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So we don't have an hourly billing model at all.
Okay.
So essentially where it is if there's any sort of engagement with us, right? And whatever that looks like is, for most things, you can just reach out and ask a question, especially if you're engaged as a business for us, you can reach out to us whenever you need to get these questions answered. We try and be really accessible because we know that information, honestly, at this day and age should be free, especially because with the internet. But the problem is if you go on the internet and you're just looking for the information, you're going to get a lot of different takes from a lot of different people. So ultimately, it's a mutually beneficial thing for us to just share information when we have it, right?
Right.
You're not asking us about some crazy tax something that you heard from a guy on Instagram who told us that you haven't paid taxes for 35 years. Instead, you're talking to us who actually, keep up to date with the tax code, things like that. It ends up being a more mutually beneficial agreement to just kind of share information as we can, just to make sure
Right,
people
right.
are educated.
Right. Instead of just waiting, oh, wait till tax day to, show up and ask all the questions, right? It's like, no, you've got that ongoing engagement, which I think is great. I think it's awesome.
I love it when clients send me the stuff that they see online saying, can I do this? So I can say, okay, yes or no. I love that.
Yeah.
No, and it does show people are interested in their taxes and they do want to, keep track of what they're doing. But our strategy is more for the longevity of the business. We want you to be around for a long time, grow for a long time, reduce the risk of audit as much as possible and things like that.
No, very cool. Very awesome. Yeah, we're definitely going to be recommending you guys to our clients. And yeah, well, and it's Jalada.io, right? That's the website.
Correct. Yes.
And Tyler and Brayden, yeah, appreciate you coming on. I usually don't have people come on my YouTube, but you guys are awesome. And again, like we get so many questions from tax. People have, again, all of our clients are entrepreneurs or business owners that are raising capital, but once they hit the tax thing, the tax questions start coming. I'm like, well, look, we're securities lawyers, right? That doesn't mean tax, right? So we always pass them on to some professionals that know what they're talking about. So yeah, appreciate you guys coming on, and yeah, we'll keep in touch.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for bringing us on.
Okay, guys, take care.
All right, you too.